You just whispered shit.
I said action.
I heard shit.
Oh, are we on?
Yeah, we're on now. Okay, so I have something to ask you guys.
Uh-oh.
Any of you think that if you were to go back and do the POPAT tomorrow, you'd be able to pass it?
Oh, hell no.
Come on. Would you at least try?
Oh, yeah, I could try.
Yeah?
I'd heard a lot of things, but I would try.
Right.
I was on YouTube, and I was watching the requirements for, like, different agencies. And one of the agencies, you start from a seated position, and I thought, I can't even get out of the fucking chair to start that. Like, I couldn't get out
You
of
get out of a seated position to do what?
In a chair. That's where they start you. Like you're driving a car, right?
Oh.
So they have you sit on a fold-out chair, and then they go. And then you got to get up, and you got to run, sprint, jump over shit.
At this point, the chair would still be stuck to my ass. It wouldn't, like, come on.
Right.
My butt's too big.
I was all, holy fuck. I don't think I could do that. And that 6-foot wall looks like it's fucking 12 feet.
So does that mean that could be one of our podcasts? We're all going to go out there and
Do the
try the POPAT?
We better have some fucking paramedics there for us.
We got
know
fire.
some fire.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we know some fire people now.
Well, we want them there with oxygen. Because I watched the video, and it's exhausting. The body drag, the 500-yard
okay,
run.
You still have to do pull-ups in that?
Yeah, pull-ups.
Oh, yeah. There's no way I
sit-ups.
could do that.
Shit, maybe we should just try like push-ups and sit-ups and see
The
if
other
we can
one, the
survive
push-up,
that.
sit up, a mile and a half.
Yeah, it was like
Dude, I don't
20.
even think you guys could do the stretch. Isn't there the
Touch
stretch
your toes.
one? Touch your toes? You couldn't even touch your toes.
I'm not that fat ass.
It's not because you're not fat. It's because you're not flexible.
You're right. I'm not, there's no way. It's pathetic. Okay, so on the heels of that, because I was talking about being able to do that job, one other thing, I was looking at the recruiting video for mile department, and they make it look so exciting to do the job, right? Like,
Well,
I
they
watched the
always
K9
did.
come out and run, and I was like, none of that was exciting. Like, no, you're doing that in 120 degree weather with 40 pounds
But
of
you
gear
thought it
on.
was exciting or you wouldn't have got into it.
It was exciting, but no, whatever. They should have it a little bit more realistic. Like, they should show you chasing a suspect.
And then crying at the end. Like, what?
Out of breath, bent over.
No,
you
like,
want him to show?
Like you sitting in front of a computer for the next 6 hours typing a report. Like, all that 20 minutes of, fun and chasing a suspect to now go type a report.
Or not fun,
Well-
just shoplifts and
Oh.
all the other calls, typing report, and no
Right.
fun.
You said
Yes.
shoplift because that was a bad one for you. They don't say that shit, and you might get shot in this job. They leave that part out. You might get crazy. You might catch crazy.
You might catch crazy.
You might catch crazy.
They should have put that in my video. They should have told me.
Okay, so part of the reason I'm bringing that up is because my man Josh here, I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about having him back on the podcast, and he brought up one of our older podcasts when you and I, T, were going back and forth of, is it an injury or is it a disability? So he wanted to go through round 2 for this.
Round 2? Oh, shit.
And we brought in a true American today. Veronica's in the house. And she's got bling on the American flag.
Yes.
Yeah?
So, all of us here, except Josh, I think, is working again, right? You're not working.
No working.
So well, I'll start with you because it was your idea. What do you think? Injury? Disability?
Injury. 100% injury.
You've always said that?
Yeah. It can easily become a disability or grow into that without a doubt. I mean, but I think it starts as an injury for everybody, whether you realize it at the time or you just shove it at the back and continue on, and now 2 years down the road when you discover it, it's already a disability because you're that far gone. That may be, but I believe it always starts at some type of injury. That call that you ignored, it was the injury.
Well, yeah, you have to say it's an injury because
To
the
start
doctors
with.
can show you. Well, yeah.
But I'm saying permanent because the difference, the debate that Tanya and I were going through, because, and I'll bring it to you, was you said it starts as an injury, which I agree with.
Okay.
Right? I'm not disagreeing with that. But even if you ignore any injury, it'll become a disability, right?
Yeah.
So are you saying that? Well, because we know it takes, you get acute stress first, goes untreated, you get PTSD. So let's say that the injury is the acute stress, Are you saying in that 30 days there, you think you can fix that?
I don't know if you can fix it within 30 days, but I think you can get on the road to fixing it. I think
Okay.
it can be fixed. I think everyone can go back and do the job. I don't think because you get it, you're done and you've got to get out. Like I don't think you're disabled at that point.
So where would you ideally think that we would be fixed, I guess is the question. Because like for me, I went, and I'm going to use this very cautiously, but I went after my critical incident. And that's when I thought I was fucked up.
How
But
long after?
Like the next day after. It was probably
You went where? You went to a doctor?
Occ Health. Yeah, I went to occupational health. So I'll just because I don't know it was like the next day, but I'll say within the next 5 to 6 days, I was at occupational health, and they diagnosed me with acute stress, and then their recommendation was a mental health professional, which I asked for through work comp, because then you fill out the little shitter paperwork. That's when they deny it, and then now because remember, I don't know anything about this, so I didn't know where I was supposed to go. So I went to our EAP, and that was fucking worthless. Like, that wasn't even close to being where I should have went. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So having talked to the doctors and been around doctors for the last 5 years in this capacity, I do know that, and even on my own charts, I'll use my own, all the doctors that I saw, which was a total of 12 or 13, said had I addressed it initially, you're correct. It would have never became PTSD, because it would have got treated, and then I could have went back to work. So I don't think we disagree on that. I'm just talking about when you do have PTSD. Should you consider that an injury at that point, or is it a disability? Because the term that's getting tossed around a lot is PTSI and PTI, I think, or
No,
PTS.
PTSI.
PTS.
Oh, PTS.
PTS.
Right. So I guess what do you think?
I think, again, it matters on whether you get the correct help. I mean, clearly there are the wrong places to go, but I think if you get the correct help, I think you can still, from day one of PTSD, I think you could be saved whenever that determination is, and that all comes down to which doctor you see on when they want to tell you have it or you meet the criteria or however it is. But I think there's always a point of no return and a point of saving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think with PISTLE, though, most of the people that get there, it's gotten to the point of no return because they're now there on their own because they couldn't get the help when they asked for it, and they put it off as long as they could to ask for the help. And then when they did, they didn't get the correct help. So now, like you said, you went through the steps you thought you were supposed to, and that pushed it off for however long.
Right.
I mean, had it been
I just crossed
taken
that
care
threshold of point no return, is what you're saying.
of, maybe not. I mean, it's
There's no
Who's
coming
to
back
say?
for you.
There's no-
You're done, dude.
I'm so far down the road, I'm fucked.
who's to say, and no one's to say how long that road to get to where you can return is.
So let me ask you this.
Well, wait. Josh got help. You got help right away, correct?
Yeah.
So do you feel you have a disability now, however many years later?
Not in
Mental.
the mental part of it.
Okay.
The
so
physical and everything else, I would say yes. But in my mental, because for me, I found PISTLE early, was able to get to the doctor early enough. And partly before I knew what was going on, I was still on the meds for the nerve pain that was the antidepressants and everything else. So I was able to get the help and still am. And Manny's asked me, could you go back to work? And I think I could go back to work, but I think I've learned enough along the way that I would need continued help through the job to maintain
Right.
and be able to get back there.
But in order for you to do that, it would have to be a disability, because otherwise it's just an injury, right? Because you said you'd have to have the help to continue to do the job.
Well, wait. Do you
But-
have a diagnosis? You have PTSD?
Yes.
He got shot in the face. How does he know?
Well, I know, but the way he's talking, it makes it sound like he doesn't have a diagnosis of PTSD because he's.
It's because he got to it fast enough, right?
Yeah, I didn't sit at home and wait till I was able to say there's something wrong with me. I need to go get help. Someone else pushed me
And you didn't
to
have.
Dave, and I went to PISTLE, and I was able to sit there and say, maybe I do have something. So when the department said you need to go for your 6-month follow-up, I was able to go in there and say everything that I was feeling, everything I was going through, and have her say, you have signs and symptoms, you need to talk to somebody. And from that point, I was able to get to the doctor. It wasn't me sitting and stewing in my own guilt,
Right.
spiraling down the tube before realizing I needed
Help.
the help.
So let me ask you this. Let's just exclude the physical injuries that you have. Do you think that you would be good in a cruiser again?
I want to say yes, because I've had the last 3 years of help. Had I tried to work while working through it, or had I tried to go back before getting the help? No. But now that I've had the time to, and probably within the last year, I think I could go back and...
So how do you feel, and I guess I'll just have to call you out on it because we talked about it before, but when you go by an old
That
place,
spot, that store?
I won't use your critical incident because that's kind of the coup de grace of your PTSD. Let's just go back to your first shooting. The
Yeah.
first shooting. How do you feel when you go by that scene?
There's anxiety.
A lot
but,
of anxiety.
I mean, for the, I don't know, 2 year and a half after, I still went past that spot and got nothing from it. But having not
Treated it.
gone to that area, it had been out of my life for 3 years.
So what about, how do you think you mentally would be if you were back in the cruiser and a call came out similar to your coup de grace incident, so to speak?
I think the anxiety would be there. I mean, just like the initial hot tone after that call, like
Fucked you
it
up.
sent chills and anxiety, and it wasn't even a call for me, just hearing that hot tone, like that all came back. But then after that, it calmed down. I think there'd still be those moments. I think there'd still be things to work through or issues I would have upon it, but I think there's the ability to go back and do the job. No different than the people out there doing the job that have it and that are pushing it to the back and not getting help, like we would assume most of them are.
Right.
I think that Josh didn't have the issue that some of us have had with the fight also to get help or be put through the ringer from our departments. He didn't have that either.
No, I didn't have that secondary trauma, which from sitting group, I think is a huge part of it. I think
Right.
that secondary trauma compounds the issue for almost everybody.
So I like what you were saying right now about the officers that were pushing through it, because that's what I did. But we also know that that's how the officers are getting their DUIs, how they're getting their internals, because they're not pushing through it. They think they're pushing through it, but they're really not.
trying to.
They're trying, and they're failing miserably. Me personally, I don't think that if it doesn't ever go away for me, even if it's working through it, I would need to have those accommodations because I could not go to those screaming calls. There's even with therapy, even with the doctor say, hey, look, you remove yourself from the situation. It's kind of like not going to fucking Walmart on a Saturday. Like, you just don't do that. I mean, before we had the coping mechanisms to do it, but I'll never have that mechanism again.
Well, you can you can also have the accommodations and be taken out of those situations, yet still have incidences of bad decisions, perhaps. I'm just saying.
You heard.
I heard. So I heard.
We heard about that. So what about you, Veronica? What do you think? Injury, disability?
I kind of teeter on both of them. Like, I think it starts as an injury, like Josh said. But I think long term, I think it has to be, it's considered a disability because, like my incident was over almost 4 years ago now. And so I feel like I'm doing a ton better, but I know that I'm not what I used to be. And I know that, like, this weekend is a shitty weekend, like, so I know it's not like, I'm great, I'm better, I can go back. Like, I can't get back in a cruiser. No way.
Why?
Oh, just the radio, the sounds, just anxiety now. Like, there's no way.
So
the
does that
anxiety, that's, dude.
does that
you can't
even
get
cross
past
your
the
mind at all,
anxiety.
Josh?
Yeah.
Like, does that
No.
bother you, that just thinking about the chatter of the radio?
No,
No?
I think it'd be all right with that.
Yeah. The chatter of the radio doesn't really bother me anymore. But just seeing the black and white is just, there's not anything there. It took enough of me for me to understand that you're right. It should have got treated. And having seen my medical records and seen the doctor say this was treatable, But I sometimes wonder, from an injury standpoint, at what point do they deem you non-injured? You're not injured anymore.
Yeah.
Like, how do they determine, right? Because they're going to rate your arm. They're going to rate that, and they're going to say you have X amount of percentage loss to your movement. That's what creates the disability, because now you're less than 100%. So if you are always going to need help, or you're less than what you were, in my opinion, that makes it a disability. Because if you can go back to work, like you said, because if you go back now, but you're never going to be 100% like you were before your critical incident, that's, to me, that's no different than your arm, because you had 100% mobility, and now you may have 95% mobility, which is now creating the disability.
But what is that percentage? Because there's plenty of people that get an injury, you get a disability rating, you get paid out for it, and you go back to work. So
But it still doesn't make them.
it doesn't make
get
them
their
100%,
100%.
but you can do the job at less
Right.
than, I mean,
But for us, with PTSD, I think that is a subjective thing, because you and I may be able to get in the car. You, me, and T might be able to get in the car and be just fine, but Veronica might not be able to. Right?
yeah.
And
Oh,
so,
I mean, there's definitely levels, and there's definitely,
so that's why I'm saying it's
inability to-
subjective. Like, I worked with a guy, T and I worked with a guy who had one leg, and that motherfucker ran faster than I did. He got in more fights than I did. He climbed fucking ladders. In my mind, I was more disabled than he was, because my fat ass wouldn't go up the fucking ladder. You know, like, I wouldn't jump walls. I mean, he was constantly chasing people. He didn't get any accommodations that I was aware of. He, you know, if he did, it was unaware to me, but he damn sure didn't need it. But I think all of us knew, okay, he's got to work a lot harder than we do. But we also afforded him a lot more. We were a lot more forgiving in certain things. And I think with the disability, for me, if there's 4 of us here and all 4 of us need different accommodations, the disability is what gives us the accommodations, right? Like, you might not want to, respond to Walmart's. And if that's the thing, then we respect that as a disability, as accommodation. You're not going to go to Walmart's. You know, like, a lot of that stuff for me matters because I was down that road when I was trying to get a job outside of the PD. Because even outside of the job with PD, I could not handle civilian life. You know, I couldn't be around fucking overly happy people. Like, they just want to pop balloons and say, I'm happy birthday. You know, I was like, fuck you.
Well, it wasn't because they were happy. It was just because you had that startle effect that.
I was mad because they were fucking angry. I mean, they were happy and I was angry. You know what I'm talking about. But I guess, so why
is there even a discussion? Like, why do we even have a discussion on whether it's called PTSI or PTSD? Like, what difference does it make, and to who does the difference make?
An injury, like we talked before, so disability will get you certain accommodations. Like, i.e., you don't have to lift over 50 pounds, or an injury is something that is what Josh is talking about when they say, well, you lost 5% on your hand, but you can still lift 100 pounds. They're not going to accommodate him because it's registered as an injury. They're not going to look at him and say, you don't have to do that and we can still hire you. Because in Josh's world, the wounds that he has physically are war wounds. Those make him a hero.
Right.
Right? The mental wounds that we have, they don't make us heroes. They don't look at us and say, oh, poor thing, you know, we want you to come work for us. It's I don't want to say a double standard, but it's kind of a slap in the face. And I think Josh talked about it when you were talking to the media, when they said you were the unicorn because they pushed you through so quickly. But I think because people understand physical hurt, they understand that hurt, and they're very forgiving when it comes to you being hurt and not having to lift that. Josh is not somebody who looks like he's out of shape.
No.
And yet, I guarantee you, if he was to go apply for a job and he mentions the disability, they're going to cater. They're going to say, oh, let me get that for you, bro. Like, you know what I mean? But in my world, if I'm like, I can't be around these fucking screaming people, they're going to be like, they're just screaming, suck it up. Like, they don't have that same forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I guess you may know a little bit, but what about, like, Veronica, do you understand that? Like, No, because you're your own boss.
I was gonna say she hasn't applied for a job
Yeah.
where she's had to say, okay, I can't do whatever.
Right.
And Dummy's still doing math. She can't do math, and she's
That
still
hurts
trying.
my head.
Apparently she can because she's doing the job.
Yeah,
It's painful though.
So-
I know. So you're still putting yourself into
Yeah.
a position where you're
Oh yeah,
hurting
I can
yourself.
Totally tell. I feel like I'm back at like when I was pushing through work and still going, but really sick with everything in the beginning. Like I would get home at the end of my day and I was just done, like almost unconsciously done. Like I just couldn't. I would pass out and be done. And I know like now when I've had a long day at work or a lot of fucking numbers and just a lot of people or whatever, like I have to just go home and sleep for the rest of the night. Like I can't do anything. I just shut off and can't do it. Like it's hard. It hurts my head all the time.
Are you like that at all?
On the days of therapy and stuff, yeah, it'll wipe me out.
Like physical therapy?
No, the vision therapy,
Ugh.
the mental stuff, or when I was going to Barrows for the mind therapy, it was. Yeah,
So
it
have
wiped
you
me out.
thought about going back to work at all in any capacity?
Not yet, because of all that.
Just the
The
physical
compound
side
of all of it. Just a long day in any aspect of doctors and any type of therapy, it can wipe me out. It's getting better, but
Mm-hmm.
it's getting a lot better. But for the longest time, like 30 minutes of it, and
You were
I was
done.
done for the rest of the day.
So what
Right.
about, like, have you even contemplated it at all? Like, I could do this or that. Does it
No.
freak you out at all? No?
No, I haven't even
You're
got to
just
that
like,
point
"Fuck it,
where
I'm retired.
well, and I still go to 4 or 5 appointments a week, so it's until that slows down, I haven't even bothered, because it's been going on now 3.5 years. Like I did 2 years ago, I would think about it. Everyone would tell me you should start going back to work soon, and then it's just like therapies would drag out, and they'd send me to another doctor that would send me to another therapy. So I just quit contemplating on what I was going to do or looking at jobs or anything.
So
just
when-
wait till it's done and then go from there.
So when, even with your physical injuries, do you think you could go back and do the job?
No,
Is it because of your physical injuries
yeah.
only?
bullshit. I will tell you bullshit. I'm just bitter. I'm bitter, Josh.
I think it would be difficult.
It's not like they can give him accommodations. Okay, he's not going to take a call at a Walmart. You can't do that for a patrol officer
Yeah.
because if it's any unit to break citywide, he's the only
call's sitting
mofo
there.
available, and they'll be like, "Oh, we
No,
don't.
some-
Nope, we can't send him."
There are some departments. He, by all standards, he went back. His department was more a better department. I could see them just making him a detective. They did that all the time. You know, an officer gets shot in the line of duty. If you're taking one for the team, you're going to probably get the cream of the crop. You go out to training. Where else do you put somebody who has been in the
Okay.
fucking fight? You go to training. They get accommodated.
Oh well, that's what when you say go back to the job. I think that means go
Patrol.
back to patrol.
Patrol, right?
No, I'm just saying go back in general. Like, do you think you could have a caseload?
Do you think you could do grand juries?
Just hang out? Do you think you could do any of that training? Firearms instructor?
Yeah, I would think
Yeah.
there's some job. Yeah, I would like to think so.
But you can
Yeah, he wouldn't find
Put it
out
to
until
the
he tried
test
to
and
do
go
it. Yeah.
apply.
I mean, so it comes down to I've been 3 years of not having that 10-hour shift, but
10 hours. The thought of
So nothing about that
10
gives
hours
you
of
anxiety?
actual work. Oof, I'm exhausted.
That's hard.
I'm sweating.
I know.
I'm
Just
sweating right
thinking
now.
about it.
it's overwhelming to think about. But I know at some point that's going to be my life again.
What, work?
Yeah, a job.
Not if you have Veronica's job. You just build closets all day at your leisure.
Your leisure.
Well, and you're probably not going to do anywhere where you have to do 10-hour shifts anyway.
Yeah.
Like that, there's not a whole lot of jobs where you do 10-hour shifts, right? In normal world?
No, not really.
I don't know.
Did construction
Well,
for
construction
15
do
years
12,
before that.
yeah.
You do.
Construction.
12, 14
You show
hour
up and they
days.
tell you go home when the job's done. So if that's 10 hours, if that's 16, that's what you work. But
See, there's no way that I struggle. I don't. There's times where if it's just too long of a day and just too much thinking, my brain is fried.
That's the problem is
Yeah.
the too much thinking. Like
yes.
if it's 10 hours of, not a whole lot going on today, I can get through those 10 hours, but when it's 10 hours of actual work and I'm like, holy shit, I need a nap and I need a
Right.
nap right now. That's why I go to bed at 7.
Because you get up early.
I'm exhausted.
So do any of you think about going back into like a civilian position to see – outside of the PD to see if you can actually work? Have you thought about that at all, Josh?
Like not in the last year. I mean, like I said, 2 years ago, everyone kept saying it's going to come soon. You're going to go back to work. They're going to send you back to work soon. So I kept thinking and dwelling on it and getting anxious, and then it didn't come, and I got more therapies.
What about just regular job?
No, just anything. I mean, I was looking for any type of job and just looking at jobs to see what I would want to do. But
did you find anything?
no,
Nothing?
no.
He's just going to fucking be retired forever. Do you even think about, like, ever, is it just that you have so much therapy that it's just not even within...
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's 4 or 5 days, and it's easy to tell them my day is open, when can I get in, as opposed to, oh, I need to get in on these certain times, and that they can't get me in now. Like, it's a lot easier to get into doctors when you say, when can I get in, as opposed to, can I get in on Tuesday or a Friday afternoon?
Right.
Yeah.
When, it's easier to work off of their schedule
Right.
and then build my life around that, as opposed to attempt to tell them, I'm free on these days, can you get me in? No, you need to wait another 2 weeks to get in to see the doctor.
So you going back to work is nowhere near an option at this point for years?
Assume sooner than that, but like I said, I don't know. I didn't expect it to be this long.
And Veronica, are you considering any kind of regular job?
No.
Why?
Because I mean, even just doing this, like I have appointments maybe once or twice a day, like 4 days a week maybe. And although for me, like just the closet stuff, the design stuff, like for me, that's almost therapeutic because it's sitting there drawing and things like that. But when I start doing the numbers, I mean, it's lots of numbers and dollars and whatnot. At the end, when I'm done, like I feel like it's therapeutic while I'm there because it's quiet, it's peaceful, it's my time. But when I'm done, like my brain is on fire and I just can't, like I just need to turn everything off and be done for the day. So if I had to do that, like, 7 to 5 every day, like there's no way I feel like I've taken steps back versus, moving forward, I guess.
So going to work somewhere, I don't know, if you weren't a police officer, what would you have done?
I don't even know.
No, because you just always knew you're gonna be a cop.
Right.
I need you to just call it design work and not closet work because I
Yes.
get a little panicky when you say
You already came out. You already came out of the
I know,
closet.
but I don't know what you're going to try and make me go back in.
No.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Design work. Okay.
So
design
how
work.
is it? How is it with your real estate? How?
Oh, so for me that was really easy. I was doing it with my husband, so when it was a bad day, like he could take care of everything and I could stay home and hide if I needed to. So that was really easy. And so it's been 3 years of doing that where, now that I'm like I said, I feel like I'm a lot better and a lot further along than I was back then, that now that I'm doing it alone, it doesn't seem so overwhelming or as intimidating as it was before. Because, I mean, there was a time, like, we used to go and contact people, and as cops, we knock on people's doors all the time. And we would walk up to the door and I would kind of just hide, but he's a big guy. I would just kind of hide behind him and let him talk and not want anything to do with
Contact cover. That's what that's called.
Right? And I did that for a long time. And he would say, like, come on, you have to come up. You have to talk. You can't just hide. And I was like, I'm going to go wait in the car then. Like, I don't even want to see these people. And so it was a lot of that for a long time. And then I started, I started forcing myself out into like networking groups and things where I was going to have to meet people. And my first one, I didn't realize that part of it was getting up and like introducing yourself and your business and talking in front of a group of people. And so my first one, I had to do that, and I thought I was going to just drop dead. Like it was.
We did that shit all the time in police. Every
I know,
fucking
but I
training,
couldn't.
stand up. What department? What's your name?
Nope, I
Yeah.
couldn't do it anymore. For forever, I just was happy hiding. And then the first time I did it, it was horrifying. And then, because I knew that was what was taking place in those things, like I would go like 2 or 3 times a week just so that I could get used to being around people again and not have that crazy anxiety that I was having when I would do it. And then eventually it just became like, oh, okay, much better. And I'm not scared of just standing up and feeling like everybody's going to attack me or something.
I think the three of us should go apply for jobs somewhere. Like I already did it. I already applied. I worked at the bank, and motherfuckers were gonna die. Like that went from 8 hours to 4 hours really quickly, because I couldn't be around. Like even when I asked for my accommodations, you know, I had to get off the phone. I could not listen to these people, you know, on just what they were. Maybe it was just my empathy was gone, right? Like people were like, you know, people would call in. They're like, "Can you tell me why my account is overdrawn?" And I'm like, "Because you spent all your money at Sephora." That's where it was going. Let me read the line item, right? And it was like Starbucks, Jamba Juice, Sephora, and then T-Mobile, which they didn't have enough money for. And then they were like, "Well, why'd you pay them? You told us to pay them. It's automatic pay." And I just didn't have the tolerance. So is that something that you think you would struggle with, Josh? Did you get to that level? Because you didn't have, I know you said in the podcast, and you've told me many times, you didn't have that long on the department, right? It was like 3 years?
3 years.
So do you think you were, I know my wife in the past and my doctors have said I was probably fucked up before the critical incident. Do you think you had gotten that cynical in 3 years?
No,
That's
not
slow,
to where.
huh?
Yeah.
That's great. 3 years and not fucked up.
So you're talking like the feeling, like, I mean, you know, we call them like salty officers and whatnot. Like, so are you talking that kind of cynicism where we're just like, we're done with people and they're probably, their problems just are so big to them, but so minute to us for our empathy for them.
Well, some of that stuff too is, I think getting fucked up along the way, like Josh said, like they're pushing through it.
Yeah.
Right? Like you push through that. Did you ever have that feeling when you were in Chandler
yeah,
before your critical incident?
Certain calls. I mean, when you've gone back to the same residence over and over, you lose the sympathy for that victim. Absolutely.
But I'm saying, did you have that, were you cynical at that point with society?
No, not with society, no.
No. So, I mean, I understand, just keep going back to the repetitiveness.
Did you feel that when you went to a vehicle burglary for somebody that had left their car open, did you think that they were dumbasses and deserved their shit stolen?
Well, that was the first day, yeah.
He was already cynical. He had PTSD from that day.
I don't know when that comes. I don't know when that shows up. But
I mean,
then you're like, oh, you moron.
So, let me ask you this, Josh. Is it easier... So, do you have PTSD now?
I would assume so. I mean...
So, is it easier for you to tell people that you have a disability because you're a physical injury? Or because you're fucked up in the head?
Is it easier one way or another?
Yeah, which one are you more likely to disclose first?
Physical, because it can be seen, but I would have no problem saying the mental because, like I've said before, find someone else that was shot in the face that's not and
fucked up, right?
I won't feel bad. Like, it's different when you can be on the same call as certain people and now you're messed up. It's easy to feel like maybe you shouldn't be, but I don't think there's too many people out there that have been shot in the face that aren't fucked up. So
right.
Until you bring me one that is, then I have no problem saying I am. You line up 5 people that say I was shot in the face and I have no issues.
They'd lie.
And you can look at them and say, yeah, maybe you don't have any issues. Then maybe I'll have more trouble saying that I do, but no.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to find anybody. No one's ever going to say that. No one's ever going to say it.
And I think,
and that's the thing. I would never say that. That's what I would start with. This motherfucker got shot in the face. He has got to be fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, there's no...
Well, because we talked in the last podcast, and Veronica and Mark had said that they pick and choose when and how they tell people they're fucked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if your belief from the injury side to the disability side has to do with shame.
No.
So if, granted, and we've talked to Brittany about this, but if you were given the opportunity to go back to that car, you'd go back?
If I could do, my whole thing from the very beginning was if I could do the job, I would. But
what part of the job can't you do now because of the physical injury?
Any physical arrest, like the hand is numb, I can't search somebody and hold them. I can't hold them with this hand and search them with the other. I can't grab onto anybody with my hand at all and feel I have control. I couldn't feel in control for my safety or for the officer next to me.
Right.
I wouldn't put them through that. So, but if I felt I could do the job the same as before, yeah, I would go back.
Yeah, so would I.
There is no... there is no. Everybody knows his incident, and you can watch it on fucking TV if you have it. You know, everybody knows his incident. There's no way he's going to have shame because no one did anything on that call that would give them shame.
Right.
Like, he has physical injuries, and it's the people that, have you ever known anybody that has physical injuries that don't have shame for having PTSD? If they have physical injuries?
No.
Anyone? Do you guys know of anybody?
Mm-mm.
No.
It's the shame because you have no physical
Right, you
injuries
can't
and you
see
just
it.
have the mental. Yeah.
The
That's where
reason-
the shame
See it,
comes in.
yeah.
Part of the reason I ask is because there's no way, like you talk about not being able to search someone the same. That's how my brain is. I could not even remotely safely get to a resolution of a crime
Oh, God.
with
No.
that amount, because now I'm in a different capacity now, so I'm not going call to call to call to call to call, right? Like, I'm not going from hot tone to hot tone to hot tone. It's way different.
Yeah.
You know, I might arrest somebody every 7 months, and that's not even hands-on. That's a citation, press here, 3 copies. That's all it is. So that's why, for me, it matters that it's a disability and not an injury, because for me, the injury part would imply that I could do that again, which I know I can't. I could probably get dressed in a uniform and be okay, but I wouldn't be able to cross into the black and white in uniform because there'd be too much. My brain wouldn't process that the same way. I would immediately go back to, working or getting that drowning call. I know some people would probably say I didn't get the right therapy, and maybe I agree, but I just think that I'll always struggle with that job, what that job took. My being cynical at that point, I mean, I can't even imagine guys that are in LAPD or New York or Phoenix, some of these bigger ones, because it's day one nonstop trauma. Nonstop. You're going from call to call to call of trauma.
But you didn't think that when you were doing it. You never thought that it was trauma when you're in it for
Right.
No.
however many years.
Right.
I was
No.
thinking that. Holy shit, I saw some trauma today, and
Right.
it was,
Yeah.
fuck that.
Well, there were times where I thought to myself, I was like, nobody should see this shit, right? Like, I had to watch a video of an inmate beaten and stabbed, and I was thinking to myself, nobody should watch this, right? But this is life, and somebody has to watch it, and somebody has to process it. But just the whole atmosphere of the department and trying to process all these things that are going on at one time. I mean, multitasking for me now is impossible. It's impossible.
Impossible.
Like, I used to be able to, and I can say this because I'm not in the department anymore, but I used to be able to drive, run the DXT,
Answer the phone.
answer the phone, and still wave at the kids that were waving at me. And I
While
would
eating
still,
a sandwich.
Right.
I can remember that I was with an officer, and you probably know him, but we did a high risk stop, and we had just checked off for lunch, and I literally had a Whataburger, and it was an e-call a block away, stolen vehicle. I had my gun in one hand
And your
and the burger
Whataburger.
in the other one, and I had no. There was no like, that's a problem, like when you can do that. And I think for me, the reason disability is such a big deal is because when I did retire, I needed those accommodations. I had to have those accommodations because I could not do 8 hours without losing my mind. If you give me injury, which I'm not denying, it starts as an injury, but if you give me injury, I can't go to them and tell you I can't be near these people who are going to be popping balloons, right? Because it fucks me up. I can't have people screaming behind me. That disability gives me the ability to feel normal again. It gives me the ability to be in a world where I'm not normal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think that's all compounded from everything, because you're talking about all your prior calls. So when was your injury? Was it just the drowning, or was it all these prior calls of
I said
all the
it was
years on the
just
duty that you're saying. See,
I said it
'cause
was
you're
just
saying
the
all-
drowning. The
you're
doctors
s-
disagree.
Well, you're even now saying I had all this trauma. I can't imagine
Right.
LAPD because you get all this trauma from day one constantly. So that's what I'm saying. When had you gone to the doctor 5 years into the job and regularly seen a doctor
They
just
would've
to
told me
get
to
that
quit.
injury? Possibly. But would they have told you to quit, or would they have shown you ways to work through it, to unload it, to where when you got to the drowning, you could have worked through it and unloaded it,
Right.
and you wouldn't have had then the trauma from the department as you're going through the process. Like, you're saying injury and referring to it as just that incident, but you're also referring to all your years on prior as builds up to it.
Right.
So I think it's injury. It just depends on when that injury is and when you treat that injury. I mean, if we all wait till the breaking point, and then it's most likely a disability from that point. But I think, and that's the hard part, is getting officers to go get checked before it's an injury or before it's a disability. I mean, you see them come into PISTLE all the time on their own because they can't find help or don't know where to turn or don't want to turn, but they're past the injury
Right.
point.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
already at an infected, like, if they broke their ankle and now it's infected and needs to be cut off, and now, it's a
Right.
disability. I get all that. But that's where I say I got lucky in the sense that within 3 months, I had people pushing me to PISTLE, and I was able to go in there and say, yeah, I have all these issues and I should see somebody. And like I said, at the time, for me, it was easy enough to say there's no shame in it, because bring someone in that was shot in the face that doesn't need help, and then I'll have some shame. But until then, I need help, and almost everybody else probably does too.
Right.
But yes, me only having 3 years on, I think, is huge in the fact that I didn't have more issues. But at the same time, I got a lot more treatment than just go talk with the doc. I got neurofeedback. I got all these other things for different injuries that all have this side effect of, they help PTSD. So I don't know what helped me, because I had, 15 different things going on, meds, everything else. I did anything they would offer.
Right.
So I can't tell you that just going in and talking to the doc is the way to go. I mean, I'm on 80 sessions of neurofeedback to rewire my brain. Did that do it? I don't know, but can I tell you to go do it at, $200 a class, a
Right.
session? No.
Is that for your PTSD
That
or
is
your TBI?
TBI, but it's same. I never got checked for either. I mean, all signs and symptoms are the same, so we'll just treat you. And work comp did, and everything was, they've treated all of it, but it treats both. So I can't tell you if it helped one or the other. Or the ketamine, I did it for nerve pain, but it's supposed to help PTSD.
Right.
I
So
mean,
do you think you're better? Do you still have any of the remnants of that PTSD? Do you still have night terrors?
few and far between. I mean, my signs and symptoms would be few and far between. They're there at times. There's certain podcasts I'll listen to that will, for whatever reason, mess me up, and I won't sleep that night at all.
Right. What about any Walmart? The Walmarts in particular just fuck with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the most part. I mean, there's a few. I'll go in if we're with the kids and they need something or want to go. I'll force myself in. There's times for whatever reason the world slows down. It's slow motion, and I'll find myself backing into a corner. Just it's like I'm watching TV,
Right.
and there's just an uneasy feeling, and I can't.
So
Can't
do you
pinpoint it,
think
can't shake
that,
it.
Do you think that that's enough for you to be disabled from it? Because it's not, you haven't worked past it, and you got it soon enough, and you're still finding yourself in that position. Because it's not going away. Or is it just something you never addressed with your psychologist?
Still working through part of it, but like I said, I can still get there. I'll have those, moments where it slows down, but I'm still.
Inside. You're
I can
still
go.
in the
I can
Walmart.
walk in the Walmart and not, lose my shit and go out screaming, and
Right.
I'm waiting in the car like, you go do what you got. I'll go in.
But are you struggling after? Because pushing through it, we know, is not the correct way to do it.
Usually no. Like once we're out and over, it's over. It doesn't. The things that usually screw me up that carry on are certain groups or certain podcasts. Like I have therapy that's an hour drive away, and that's when I would usually listen to the podcast.
Right.
And then I would find that night, like, it was still with me.
Yeah.
Just certain ones. Some of them, once it was over, I was done, but certain ones, for whatever reason, would hit a nerve, and it would, something in me would still continue to think about it. I couldn't shut that one off.
Yeah.
So
that's
there,
kind of like for me too.
there's just certain, it does nothing more than that. It's just, for whatever reason, now my brain's stuck on something specific to that podcast or to that group.
So let me ask you, T, because you're still working. We've had this conversation over cigars, but do you think you could work a civilian 8-hour position?
What scares me is trying to learn something new, because learning new things I have trouble with. Like, I can be on autopilot with the job I'm in right now because I know how to do it and I know what needs to get done and I don't have to think about it too much. But learning something new and having to do something new and then add on top of stupid people, I think it's,
They're everywhere.
dude, how do you get away from
fucking
them?
everywhere.
Because that's what I have trouble with, the having to think a long time. Like, learning something new scares the crap out of me because it's going to take it out of me and I'm going to be exhausted, and then, and then add on top some dumbass that thinks they're going to tell me what to do, that haven't done anything in life yet they're going to tell me how to do something is going to.
So do you think that having just an 8-hour job, do you think you could do 8 hours outside of PD? Home Depot, Lowe's.
I don't know. I mean, I would try.
Well, I'm sure we'd all try. But do you think you could do it?
I don't know until I'm there, right?
Do you think you could do it? I guess that's the question. Do you?
Well, I'm
Is
not
it
going to
not-
run out of the Home Depot like,
Right.
fuck you guys. Well,
Yeah.
I don't think I would do that, but we all
I think
know
you
that.
might.
But I think there's a
it could
difference
happen.
in, like, I think all of us have that will or drive in us to force ourselves to do things. You know what I mean? Like, to stay there and stick it out, and then we'll just have the ramifications of going home and being exhausted. And
Because we're not quitters.
Right.
I'm not going to quit. I'm going to force myself no matter. That's a perfect example of. I'm going to force myself no matter what consequences I have to me.
right.
I'm going
Yeah.
to do it. So I'll always be the last
So
person.
so you'll
But that's
do
what
it,
got
and
us here
you'll
in the first place.
But would that be any different than the job you're doing now?
You push through it.
You not push through it and go home exhausted?
No, I do.
So,
But how does that work out for you?
But at the same time, is the
Sometimes
job
I make bad decisions.
But-
Shut up.
is the job you have now hindering your recovery, or
Yes.
Yes.
I-
Absolutely.
I can
So-
say yes to that.
yeah? So would the new job not be any less stressful, just in the sense of it being a job that you're going to every day for 8 to 10 hours? I mean, that's what you're doing now, right? At
It's
a job
what I'm
you
doing
hate.
now. It's not the job that I hate that's the problem. It's the way that I was treated in this whole process, and
that's
still
all I mean.
working for that.
That's all I mean. The job you hate because of who you work for, not necessarily the
Right.
job you're doing, but where you're at. Like,
Right.
and that's hindering any type of.
Yes.
Clearly, that's hindering your recovery in any form.
Clearly.
But I don't.
Clearly.
I still, like I said, because I went to work in the civilian world. It's for me. You're right. It waited too long.
But did you have a break too? You had a break.
I did. I had
So
a break.
if she
and
were
I
to
still
quit,
couldn't do it.
if she were to quit tomorrow and not take that break, did that break? Do you think that hindered you as well?
The
I mean,
break.
yeah, not working. Like, granted, we all think it'd be nice, but then, like, you know as well as I do, you sit home.
Yeah.
Boredom comes pretty quick, and
Yeah.
it can compound the issue as much as working
right.
at a
Right.
job that's compounding it. I mean,
Right.
if she was to quit and immediately go into another job without the break, where she didn't know of doing nothing, would it be as bad? Because would it be that much of a transition? Because clearly she's going to a job
Right.
for whatever reason she's not happy at. Would trying something new and finding that you're not happy at that job be?
It's not a matter of not being happy because I took almost 2 years off.
Am I sweating? Because I feel like it's all automatically. It's like 120 degrees
I
in
feel the
here,
same way
dude.
with her, too, and
Like
I've
talking
never-
about it.
Yeah.
Whew.
So
Whew.
I took 2 years off before I went back to work, and before we started the podcast, I was talking to T about this. I did decompress and I thawed out, but that still didn't help. Whether I would have went back sooner or later, it still doesn't help. That's part of the reason why I got 6. She went to the bank with me. I didn't like people coming up behind me. I don't know that I'll ever be okay with that. Even if I did get the proper treatment, even when I did talk to the doctors and I told them, I said, you're saying I could have been fixed? Most of them said, well, to an extent.
To an extent.
It wasn't 100%. I would never be back at that. Now, that's something for the doctors to discuss, whether, you're on a smaller department, maybe you're not getting traumatized as much as a bigger department, which is cool. But when you are traumatized, is it ever going to go away? Right? Even with therapy. Because I know people who have done EMDR on their critical incident and are okay with the critical incident, but still cannot do the job. Even though their critical incident is resolved, so to speak, maybe it's in remission, maybe it's taken care of, but they can't continue on in that capacity, right? Like, it doesn't matter what job I do. You're gonna fuck me up if you start startling me.
Right.
Right.
But I think what you're saying is just that transition period. She has the ability to go stop what she's doing now and move into a different job, and maybe it won't be as bad because you're not dealing with the bullshit of the department and the people, your surroundings.
Right.
So you might have, because I mean, essentially I was off for years, even though I was doing real estate with my husband. I still wasn't working for anybody in particular, right, other than myself. And Dave said something to me, because, I thought, I feel great. I'm going to go back to PD and do some normal cop work again. And then I was like, oh, heck no, I can't do this. Like, there's no way I want to do this again. But then Dave
She's
said
so
something.
serious. Heck no. Heck no, you guys.
Shoot no.
Oh my gosh.
But
Shoot no.
Sorry. I'm
anyway,
sorry.
but we were at a podcast and Dave was there, and Dave said something from across the yard to me, and he was like, you can. It's a confidence thing because you've been out of it so long. And that stuck with me. So when I was like, you know what, I need to fucking do something again. And I started looking, and I went back to what I know, which was cop things, right? So I was like, well, I can go back to investigations or do something. But I sat there for hours at the computer. Like, what do I want to do that? Like, what is that going to do to me mentally if I go back into the same situation and I'm seeing the same shit again? And so I started trying to figure out like what I like to do and versus what I know how to do. And so that's how I ended up in design world. And so, and it's a completely, completely different than anything I've ever done, but it's something I like doing. So it was easier for me to get into it. And once I started doing it, I was like, oh, I could totally work, but I have a great schedule and it's very flexible. So it helps me to be able to do it. But just having that time off really, I think, like Dave said, just kind of hit my confidence to where I thought I can't do anything anymore. Like, I'm just broken and I won't be able to go back and do something. So I think if, like what he's saying, if you were to just transition from this and go not take 2 years off or whatever and go into something that was not the same type of work or the same environment, I guess, it might not be as hard for you. You might, you know what I mean? You might find some ease in it because you're not dealing with the same crap.
So do you think, Josh, if you could do anything outside of police work now, if everything was done, your doctor's appointments, what would you do?
I have no idea.
You have no fucking
No idea.
None.
I know I don't want to go back to construction, which is all I knew for
No one wants to do
for
construction.
the 15 years before.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I knew, and I don't want to go back to that up and down schedule. But I don't know what I.
You know what's funny, because I watch construction people and I think to myself, they have the safest, non-confrontational job in the world. Nobody's gonna yell at me if I'm digging a ditch. Like, I worked off duty, people just dig ditches. Unless you got a fucked up foreman,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if you got some dickhead, then I could see that. But
Well, and then think of what most of the crews are made up of.
felons,
Yeah. So they don't take no shit. You don't want to. You can't lip off to anybody you like.
Go ahead.
It's
Yell
on.
at
And,
me, yell at me, motherfucker.
let's do this.
yeah. There's plenty of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I agree with you, Josh, 100%. It starts as an injury. and I wish they would have treated my injury correctly.
I think that's the frustrating part when a doctor tells you, you know, if you had been taken care of originally, you wouldn't be in this position.
Right.
And that, I think that's why I have a lot of anger, because I didn't have to be here, but here we are, and now it doesn't go away.
I just don't know at what point do you, how often are you going to have to see the doctor? How many critical incidents can you go through in a shift? You know?
Yeah.
I the most amount of dead bodies I've been in a shift was 3. That's 10 hours. And I mean, do they send you to the doctor and say, you know, EMDR it out? Do you?
Well, you're only going to have a reaction to specific things in a dead body. Like dead bodies,
Yeah.
you know.
It depends on what caused the dead body more than
Right.
just the dead body.
Yeah.
Right. What caused it or how long it's been there. You know, there are things that change just a dead body, right?
Oh, yes.
So do any of you fear going back to work?
I do.
I mean, aside from you,
I'm
T.
scared to crap.
Aside from you.
Okay.
I'll just say, Veronica and Josh, do you fear having to go back to a structured life, 8 hours, 5 days a week? Do you fear that?
I don't know that it's a fear. I think it's just a.
Do you avoid it?
I don't want to do it. I don't know. I don't know that it's the fear like the anxiety type of fear. For me, it's just I know how much my head starts to hurt and physically how I start to feel when I've had a really long day or I've tried to push through hours and hours of work of some sort. So for me, these headaches make me feel crazy and make me just like want to be done with everything. So I don't like that. That's why I don't like the idea of going back to a normal structured job. I don't think I could do it because of the physical symptoms that would occur.
Just 8 hours?
Do
Too
you get
long.
headaches, Josh? You get headaches a lot?
Gosh, on the face.
I know, but
What fucking stupid
it
question
seems
is
like
that?
me and Veronica. I didn't ask him if he had a face ache. Shut it. Me and Veronica talk about all these headaches that we have, and you guys never like.
Right,
Why don't you guys ever talk about having headaches?
I don't have headaches. Yeah,
See,
I don't-
you don't have
Oh,
headaches,
I
so
don't have
I'm
you
headaches.
don't
asking.
get
you.
headaches at all?
No.
I get.
I mean, I used to have one on a daily basis. I would finish a 30-minute therapy session. I was done for the day with a headache. They've gone fewer and far between. I can almost prevent them now. Like I can stop what's causing them.
Oh.
If I have vision therapy for a half hour, I know that I need to take a break after that and not. If it goes longer than that, I'll give myself a headache.
So Josh, what triggers your PTSD? I mean, aside from the obvious, Walmart, we'll just take that off the table. But like crowds, loud noises, pops, is there anything?
Guns. Do you have any issues with guns?
I would say yes. I haven't gone shooting because I can't walk into a public range and have civilians all around me.
Oh.
That 18-year-old girl there with her dad that's pulling the gun back out of the lane and waving it
We have a
around.
doctor
Oh,
that'll
Lord.
take you to a range
See?
for that too, by the way.
PTSD is for stupid people.
Like that
Yeah.
thought is overwhelming. To go shoot a gun doesn't scare me. I have guns, I carry. The shooting, it doesn't scare me. It's where it's going to be and who's going to have it in their hand next to me that's not properly handling it that scares
Right.
me. But a loud sound, yes, I'm more jumpy than I was before.
Average.
Yeah.
A loud sound in a crowded area will work me up quite a bit. Not for me, it's having my face covered, not being able to breathe gets me more than anything.
Shaves.
A shave,
Shave,
hot
fuck
towel
you
on my
up.
A
face.
shave?
Shave will fuck you up.
They
It
put
fucked me up bad.
Oh.
Fucked me
Put a
up
hot
bad.
towel over my face. Like
Yeah.
as soon as I got out, I couldn't see straight to shave, and it was like, take me to a barber. I need to get a shave, and I had never gotten shaved before. Well, I sat down, and first thing to do is they lather you up and throw a towel on your face and covered my face completely. Well, I couldn't breathe, and I've been breathing out of my mouth for a month, and
Gotcha.
it
The only thing
Instant
exposed
panic
in the
and-
shave is your nose. They cover your
Barely,
eyes,
yeah.
your mouth.
so
They
you're
cover
in the
everything.
dark and you can't breathe. And
Wow.
I was grabbing the chair, like trying to talk myself like I could do it. Finally, I reached up and moved it so I could breathe. But just that hot air, like, yeah. And even to this day, I'll go get a shave. I'm better. I can lay there and take it, but inside I'm losing my
Trembling.
shit.
Oh.
Yeah.
So anything else? Stupid people?
There's a lot that I still don't associate or put together, the wife will tell me, that's getting to you. Like for whatever reason, I'll just put it out.
Are you quick to anger?
Me neither.
Quicker
Josh.
than I was,
Me
but
neither.
not.
I don't see it
I mean,
in him.
everyone's
like
asked.
it's obvious when you're angry.
Everyone's
but, like,
asked,
I
why-
never
What are you
see-
talking about?
Why don't you get mad?
You
Like
don't know when
I
I'm
don't
fucking
ever
angry.
see Josh
even the
angry.
therapist asked, why aren't you mad at the guy that shot you? Well, he's dead. What good is me getting worked up and pissed at him going to do?
Right.
That's just going to get me worked up again. So no, I don't. It played out. He died.
Right. Did you have any of the like I don't want to say betrayal, but like did you have the issue like you didn't get to shoot that motherfucker? Did you struggle with that you didn't get a round off?
Struggle that I didn't do more. I don't know what. And the therapist said,
I
what
don't
more
know
could
what
you do?
more you could have done.
I don't know, but yeah,
in
there's
hindsight, I think that comes to everybody. Hindsight, when you have time to think about all the bullshit, but
yeah, but
So, in closing, except for construction, you think you'd be good at any job
I don't know any job
outside of PD and construction? Clearly, nobody wants to do that shit.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I know there's a point I'm going to go back to work. I don't know what I'm going to do. Or
do you think you can do another investigative position? Let's say stateside. You do backgrounds or you do juvenile stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. No problems with that.
I mean, it's hard to say that. I don't know what that job would completely.
Right. So
I
do
don't
you think
so.
you could do 8 hours, I guess, of work? 5 days a week, 40 hours. Do you think you could get up, like Veronica said, 7 to 5?
Yeah. I mean, I think the only anxiety I get over that is the time lost with family. That's been the reward for me through all this is I'm always there with the kids.
Right.
I'm there when they get out of school. I'm there all summer. Like, yes, I got to leave for 3 hours for an appointment, but
So
I've gotten more time with my kids than I had in.
Do you think that's
The
a
years
direct
leading up.
result of the shooting? Were you the kind of officer that would rather be on shift than off shift?
No, I didn't
Right.
get a bunch of overtime, but that comes from the construction where,
Long hours.
I mean, I'd put in 104 hours in a week before, like, because I was
Fuck
told,
that.
like, it wasn't a choice of signing up for overtime. Like, here's the job. You show up, you stay till it's done, and guess what? You're back tomorrow at this time again for the next 5 to 7 days, whatever this is on the schedule, and there's not the option to not show up.
right.
There's not anyone to call in to fill your position.
Minimum
If you don't
staffing
show up,
doesn't
Doesn't
exist.
exist.
if you don't show up, everyone behind you is picking up your slack. There's not someone to fill in your spot.
Yeah.
So when I got, and that was part of the draw to police work, is this is what you have to do. Yeah, there might be a long shift where you got to stay and finish up a report and put in a little overtime, but it's not the 100 hours, the 70 hours.
Yeah.
Here's the structure. Here's the 4 days. This is what you work. If you stay late one night, you stay late. But I wasn't picking up extra shift or doing extra duty. I had no desire to at that point.
Right. What about you, Veronica? Do you think you'll ever go back to a 9 to 5 or 8 hours?
I don't think so.
Is it because you don't want to try to,
No,
or
I
because
just know,
you can't?
I know how bad my head is. And so I know that when, like I said, even when I have like a great day and I feel good and I'm like, I'm going to clean the garage all day. I'm going to do
Bad
something
idea.
stupid, right?
Bad
I know.
idea.
And then I'm like, it takes me out for days. Like and it's not just like I'm physically exhausted, like mentally I just can't do anything. And not like mentally like I'm having anxiety or anything. I'm just so exhausted. Like it literally just hurts to think anymore about anything.
So do you have any of those symptoms, like loud noises, crowds?
No, I think I'm for the most part pretty good around. I mean, I still every now and then sirens will still get me if I don't see them coming and I just hear them, that'll get me. Or like when I see my old partners and stuff and they're working and I hear their radio go off, that'll kind of get me. I haven't been back in a cruiser. I go to the police department. I try to be around some of my old partners and teams and stuff.
That doesn't bother you at all?
No, it did the first time. I did it about a year and a half ago. It was a little intimidating, but I had such a warm welcome from everybody that it really helped me feel normal, because I had felt so abnormal having to leave, and with everything happening, it just made me feel.
When you left, did they know why you left?
Oh yeah, I sent the department all email.
Oh, email.
Hey.
Click all.
Yeah.
That's not good.
It was my goodbye. It
Reply
was a goodbye. Everybody, town.
So
dispatch.
you don't think you'll ever be able to do 40 hours?
No, not if I continue to have these headaches. If they somehow something comes up that allows me to not feel the sick that I feel when I get the headaches, then maybe. But
Do you think treatment will help that?
I don't know. I mean, nothing really works. Like I just have to take a couple days off of doing nothing for my head.
You let me know if anything helps you with those
Fucking
headaches.
exhausting.
Yeah, it just no. So far, nothing's helped me. So.
All right. And T, for you, well, nothing will help you.
Thank you.
Right.
I'm looking so forward to that. Yay.
Okay. So with that, we'll wrap it up. We need another topic. So if you're listening and you have a topic, this was Josh's topic, and he defended it really well.
Oh,
I think he
I
defended it
agree
really
though,
well.
but like even my doctor said when I first started seeing a good doctor, they were like, "This is an injury." That's how they helped me to understand what was happening to me, was by showing me that it was an injury. I wasn't just,
Going
making
crazy.
shit up.
You weren't just going crazy.
Right.
You
It was
have
an injury
Right.
that occurred, and they were showing me with all these, visuals, I guess, of the brain and what happens to people officers who develop PTSD and stuff. So for me, it was an injury always. I mean, that's how I met you, is I had listed that I had PTSI, and you were like, "Why do you say that?"
Oh,
you gave me a bunch of
drives me
shit.
crazy.
Yeah. And I was like, because it's an injury to me.
It drives me crazy. I would have never been able to go back to work if it was just an injury, because I had to be able to tell them that, one, you couldn't put me next to fucking Little Miss Sunshine next to me, who was wishing everybody happy birthday, fucking popping off poppers and popping balloons. A lot of that for me, even now, 6, my service dog doesn't go out with me as much, but she really helps me be able to sleep at night. She posts up against my door. She alerts me. There's a lot of things that I need to happen. And I understand what Josh is saying, and I agree with him. It is an injury, and if it goes untreated, anything could be a disability.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know in police work how often they're going to send officers, depending on the size of the agency.
Right, but I think it's getting better. I mean, I don't know for sure how effective it is yet, but I mean, their agencies are at least becoming more aware of it, even if they're not really trying to do a whole lot about their. It's at least something people are talking about a little bit more, so there's recognition that, hey, this could happen, and I think it's prompting younger officers to at least be aware of what they're feeling or what's happening to them, versus where we just went through. It was just a call, was the job, hurry up and get to the next one. So
yeah, and it's funny, my supervisor now, he's a captain. They had to put down some horses, and he's like, "Hey man, you don't have to show up." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you don't have to show up, because I can't handle watching this horse being put down." Why, I don't know.
it's sad. That's why.
Well, yeah, but I have feelings now.
Right.
Feelings
I was-
down.
That's exactly what happens
You
with
wouldn't
this.
have minded when you were a cop?
No.
I'll shoot that motherfucking
I'll shoot him
horse.
right in the fucking head.
What?
Yeah. So they had to put down about 4. I think they had to put down almost 5 horses. And I asked him. I said, "Hey, why didn't you call me?" He goes, "Because I know you couldn't handle it." I was
Because
like,
the,
"Yeah, I
because the
couldn't handle
computer
it."
guy knows you're disabled.
Yeah.
The fucking computer guy
Right.
knows.
Yeah, he said you're
Everybody knows.
disabled. But it matters. I can't handle that shit. The other day, I don't know what I was telling my wife the other day. I was like, "Hey, there was a Humane Society commercial that came on. I have a golden retriever as my service dog, and they show this Labrador retriever, and this dog's looking up, and I was like, I had tears rolling down my eyes, bro, and I was like, fuck, nobody come in here, I'm gonna cry." It's like, I don't. Maybe if what Josh is talking about, you address it, but I can't handle those moments anymore. I like to believe I can. You know, I put my entry vest on the other day and I was okay. Heard the radio, I was okay. But there's still things. Sometimes I think to myself, I'll never ever be the man that I was, the police officer that I was, and
I'll never be the man that I was either.
Me
Excuse
either.
me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
I am a woman washing my hands in the bathroom, not pissing in the sink. Thank you.
But
Thank you, everyone.
I do definitely say that, like I do. I look at Josh, and I think 3 years, small department, not so much fucked up.
Wait, him or the department?
Well, his department is rather small, just like yours, Veronica. You just happen to get the bad shit call, right? But I don't, in this day and age, it doesn't matter if you're a big department or small department. It's shit everywhere.
Right.
But when we came on, when did you get hired, Josh? What year?
2015.
Oh, man. 15?
Holy shit.
No.
I had 15
No.
years on by that
That's
time.
when your
2013.
incident- Yeah.
Oh, 13.
Yeah.
I had 13 years on by that time.
Yeah.
By that time, I was already so far fucked up from the calls. I wasn't aware. You know, I was excited. It's kind of like the recruiting videos that I was looking at. And I was excited. I was like, yay! You know, we get a car. I'm going to save society. It's so not like that at all. And that is ultimately what led to my demise. And, you know, I would like to believe that I could get back in the black and white. I really do. And I'm scared of the day that they call me and say, would you like a job? Because I'll take it. But, like I said, I just, for me, the disability side of it, it makes a big difference. I have to have, like Veronica and T said, like I have to have those moments where I can't be in that room or I can't do that job. You know, something as simple as putting down an animal. I was never a big animal lover, but I had to watch a horse go down, and I literally was going to cry like this was a human being. But maybe that's what we needed. I'm a big believer that it should never just be an injury. I don't think they know how to treat this injury at all. I don't think they know how to treat it, because if they treat the injury 2 days later or 3 days later, if you're working 410s, you're back injuring yourself again and again and again. Maybe not on a small department, but on bigger departments, that's what you're responding to. For 10 hours, I can't remember what the call was. I know that 45% of the people that apply to be cops never get past the POPAT. That's just the physical side. That's not the mental side. But for me, I would like to believe like Josh does. I'd like to be able to push through it. I just don't think that I would be of value.
I'd like to be supported so that I could push through it, to be able to get back in the black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked that.
I wouldn't want to be back in there.
That's all I
Society's
wanted.
so screwed up. There's no way to fix that.
But you don't miss, like, even though society's so screwed up, you had to have had an impact on somebody along
Somewhere
the way.
I did.
Right? And you don't miss those moments. Because I can look back and go, Vehicle-Berg, like, oh my God, stupid,
You know-
all day. But I can look back and or go through my shit and find all these thank you notes and things
Yeah.
from people who I did impact their lives. And those are the reasons that I would want to get back in that black and white and go out there, not for the shoplifts, not for the trespass, not for the custody issues, although you can have impact in some of those things too. I just feel like there is still reason to want to go, even though society's fucked up. Like, there's still a reason to want to go and make a difference in someone's life.
That's
Yeah.
why people, if you watch the news today, people still want to get in this job because they think what you thought. I can get in there and I can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You do make a difference.
Yeah.
You
well,
do.
that's why I got into the job, and that's
Right.
what I thought the whole time. But never did it cross my mind that
You'd be crazy.
if I got injured, I would
That they would turn their back on you
I
and
would
you'd be
not be
fucked up
taken care
forever.
of.
Yep.
So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we'll wrap it up there. Josh picked this topic. Veronica, you have a topic?
I think people should vote on it.
Vote
like,
on
you
what?
know, like on PTSI, PTSD. Like, what do people out there think about it? Those who are going through it, you know, even if they're hitting us up anonymously and whatnot. Like, how do they feel? Do they prefer the term PTSD and why, or PTSI?
Excluding shame. Shame
Well, I
plays
think
a big part of it.
yeah, definitely.
So excluding shame. I agree with Josh. It's definitely first an injury.
Mhm.
Everybody's going to agree with Josh.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yep.
thinks it's an injury.
But after, I'm saying
long term.
long term, because there's no way it would be unsafe
Well,
for
like
me to get back
my
in black and
workers'
white.
comp claim settled, and it settled. I mean, I think I had it, even though I struggled and I had to do the fight with workers' comp. It still settled, I think, a lot sooner than most people's did. And their the IME doctor that I saw, she wrote up like without hesitation, like she's been going through therapy for 2 years, like she's stagnant. There's nothing's going to change. This is who
You're
she
fucked.
is forever, right? Like there isn't going to be anything that's going to allow her to go back to work where she
Right.
was and do what she did. And so it was pretty easy for me to get through. But so I think that's where that disability comes in. That like that's essentially what they said to me was, you will be forever disabled by this because you can never do that again.
That job.
Right.
Right. Okay. We'll come up with a new topic for Sunday. As always,
Can you do your toast to forever disabled? Yay,
To us.
everyone.
and those like us,
Forever disabled.
right? And we'll see you on the next one.